I really love how he's going to put the blame on J.D. Vance. Bad timing. We had Vance on the other day. Come back so we can discuss this.
Yes. Vice President Vance went on with Megyn Kelly after being with us, and essentially they were placing this Iranian deal on him already. They were calling
Didn't he write a book called The Art of the Deal?
President Trump did, but yes.
For nearly 30 years, one daytime talk show has packaged backstage hatred as feel-good television, and that hatred is finally devouring it from the inside out. While everybody's focused on the FCC threatening to yank The View off the air, I've been tracing a much more personal crime scene. The real chain of events didn't begin in some Washington office. It started with a leak from inside the control room, a leak that gave federal regulators everything they needed to ask the one question ABC never wanted to hear. Is this really a news program or a playground for grown women who destroy anyone they don't like?
For more from the Epstein files, he might escalate.
But the only thing less popular than Epstein seems to be this
Alyssa,
war.
one question. We've all talked about this table, how we don't think President Trump really cares about the midterms. Like, he's done so many things that put a lot of Republicans in trouble for those midterms. That doesn't seem like the stopping point for him.
In this video, I'm going to show you the precise moment Joy Behar's on air. Cruelty stopped being hot talk and started becoming evidence. You'll see the meltdowns that were scrubbed from the broadcast, the reality star whose public humiliation turned her into the whistleblower nobody saw coming, and the secret pact the co-hosts made to bury it all. Because once you lay eyes on the never-before-connected footage, government documents, and hidden interviews I've assembled, you'll understand why the show that has survived every scandal imaginable might finally meet its end, and why Joy Behar herself is the reason the cameras could go dark forever. The trail begins with a staffer I will name S, a production assistant who had access to every raw feed on the set. For months, S watched Joy Behar shape coverage not through journalism, but through outright manipulation of guests. The breaking point arrived during a pre-show huddle captured on a backup recording. According to a transcript I have reviewed, Behar looked at a producer and asked, "How do we pin him on this?" referring to a Republican state official scheduled later that day. S saved the file, and that act of digital preservation would soon shake the entire broadcast industry. Here is why that recording matters. Since 1934, broadcast stations must give equal airtime to opposing political candidates. The only exception, the bona fide news interview exemption, has shielded The View for over 20 years. But that exemption demands editorial independence. If hosts are caught scripting political ambushes, the shield dissolves. That leaked audio, if authenticated by the FCC, would strip away the legal protection and force a reckoning ABC has tried desperately to avoid. Without the exemption, the entire format collapses, and executives know it. The complaint landed at the commission in early spring, accompanied by a sworn affidavit from S listing dates, participants, and verbatim quotes from multiple strategy meetings. Commissioner Brendan Carr, appointed by President Trump with a mandate to re-examine old exemptions, launched an inquiry within weeks. He simultaneously ordered all 8 ABC-owned stations to undergo early license renewal, a drastic step the network's attorneys later called an extraordinary demonstration of coercion. For the first time in 2 decades, The View faced a regulatory threat that could pull its signal off the air. This was no longer a distant hypothetical.
Maybe I'm crazy, but I think they owe Obama an apology.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this new deal is much like Obama's. It eases sanctions on Iran in return for concessions. The difference is Obama's deal centered on Iran's nuclear program. That is absent in this deal. Remember where he said they can't have it? There's no provision.
Right.
ABC fired back with an aggressive public relations campaign. Starting June 22nd, the network aired spots featuring Barbara Walters' voice, warning that the FCC wants to control who is allowed to appear on the show. A QR code directed viewers to the FCC's public comment portal. The message was unmistakable. Please save us. Yet, as those pleas saturated the airwaves, a far uglier internal reality was surfacing. And the woman at its center had been causing tension for the company long before any federal investigator arrived. Her name was everywhere, whispered in hallways and scribbled on complaint forms. That woman is Joy Behar. For years, off-camera incidents have painted a portrait of a host who uses her position to bully and exclude. Former staffers describe a green room where the temperature dropped the moment she entered. Guests with opposing viewpoints were met with rehearsed derision. One guest in particular, whose experience would later blow the doors off the entire operation, walked out publicly humiliated and determined to speak. Nene Leakes, a reality television superstar, entered the studio expecting warmth but left feeling targeted, and what she witnessed behind the cameras changed the narrative entirely. Leakes visited the program in 2021 to promote a Broadway role, but immediately noticed she was being sized up. In an exclusive interview with E! News, she recalled eye rolls and feeling like the co-hosts were looking you up and down. She later called them mean girls on social media, a post she quickly deleted under pressure. "I just felt those girls weren't friendly," she said. "I saw the eye rolls, I felt the eye rolls." The broadcast captured only a fraction of the coldness. According to a production aide who was present, the real hostility unspooled during the commercial breaks. Leakes' story is not an anomaly. It is the public face of a systemic culture chronicled in the explosive book Ladies Who Punch, which will soon be a scripted television series. Author Raman Setuda conducted 150 interviews with past and present hosts, and his findings are damning. Jenny McCarthy wept in her dressing room, terrified of Barbara Walters. Star Jones accused Walters and Behar of leaking private medical information. Elizabeth Hasselbeck nearly walked off set after a verbal assault. On The View, feminine solidarity was always a myth. Sabotage was the real currency. The same patterns endure today, just with updated faces. Nowhere is that more visible than in the relationship between Behar and legal correspondent Sunny Hostin. Multiple insiders tell me that the two women have formed a voting bloc that controls the editorial direction of the show. Co-hosts who attempt to present a conservative perspective find themselves ambushed not only on air, but in text chains that circulate late into the night. One producer described the dynamic to me as two captains steering a ship directly into the rocks while telling everyone else they are the real sailors. The network has taken notice and the iceberg is straight ahead. The tensions exploded during a segment about former Vice President Mike Pence. Hostin turned to Alyssa Farah Griffin and demanded to know how she could morally defend someone she had worked for, effectively accusing her of treachery in front of millions. Griffin, visibly shaken, tried to respond but was cut off repeatedly. Moderator Whoopi Goldberg struggled to regain control, but the damage was done. After the taping, according to a witness, Hostin and Behar were overheard mocking Griffin's emotional reaction in a corridor, laughter echoing down the hallway like a schoolyard taunt. This kind of behavior has finally exhausted the network's patience. A well-placed source told the National Enquirer that Behar and Hostin are viewed internally as entitled, and that their conduct is testing the patience of executives who deal with major stars without issue. The source added that there are plenty more stories waiting to surface, and that this particular incident blew up only because someone on the crew refused to stay silent any longer. That someone, it now appears, is SA, and the folder of evidence had been growing for years. The fuse had been lit. The fuse connected directly to the FCC's investigation, which asks a simple but devastating question. Does The View function as a genuine news interview program? The Commission's new guidance, issued in January, explicitly warns that daytime talk shows cannot automatically claim the exemption. Chairman Carr, who previously probed Disney's diversity policies, has made clear that the old free pass is gone. When the agency dug into the segment featuring James Tallarico, a Democratic Senate candidate who received friendly, unchallenged airtime while his opponents got nothing, they found a textbook violation. That was just the public evidence.
Do you have any idea how bad this deal has to be for Republicans to turn on him at this point? Because they will go with whatever he goes for. Yeah. The only person or people who say this is a good deal are the Iranians.
Yeah.
Nobody else seems to think it's a good deal.
No, we got completely played by the Iranians.
Behind the public evidence lies the secret material S compiled. The leaked recordings reportedly include multiple pre-show planning sessions in which hosts and producers explicitly discuss how to frame segments to damage Republican targets. In one exchange, a producer allegedly texted, "Make sure the audience leaves thinking he's hiding something." These are not the words of journalists. They are the words of political operatives. The Commission's Enforcement Bureau now has those words in sworn form, and ABC's legal team has spent sleepless nights trying to argue that this is just normal editorial conversation. Legal experts I consulted laughed at that argument. The political backdrop makes everything more volatile. President Trump has been in a public war with Disney for years, singling out The View as a symbol of everything he believes is wrong with the media. His appointee at the FCC has moved aggressively, ordering early license renewals that the network calls unconstitutional. But even if Trump's politics are the catalyst, the underlying facts are not invented. If the show's own staffers are providing evidence that the news exemption is a sham, the Commission's case does not depend on who appointed the chairman. It depends on the truth of what happened. That truth was kept hidden for years by a sophisticated system of non-disclosure agreements and paid silence. 4 former production employees have told me independently that they witnessed disturbing conduct, slurs, physical intimidation, emotional abuse, and were swiftly handed severance packages in exchange for their signature on an NDA. One associate producer recalled being told, "If you want to work in this town again, you'll forget what you just heard." The financial settlements were generous enough that most did, until S decided that no amount of money was worth participating in what she considered a fraudulent enterprise. Her choice has already inspired others to come forward. The contents of the flash drive S mailed to the FCC have not been made public, but a source who has been briefed on the investigation tells me it contains over 40 hours of raw audio and video. The material allegedly captures not just the March 4th meeting, but a pattern stretching back to the 2022 midterm elections. During that cycle, the show booked a disproportionate number of Democratic candidates and, according to the affidavit, deliberately excluded Republican challengers who had requested equal time. The Commission is treating the allegation with extreme seriousness. ABC's desperation to bury this evidence is evident in recent court filings. The network has petitioned the FCC to seal large portions of the record, citing proprietary editorial processes. A former agency attorney told me bluntly, "They are not trying to win on the merits, they are trying to hide the smoking gun." Meanwhile, the viewer outreach campaign continues to urge the public to submit comments. As the comment count climbs past several thousand, an interesting pattern emerges. Many of the messages are not from supporters at all. One reads, Why should my local station's license depend on keeping them happy? The ratings, ironically, remain strong. Controversy sells, and the viral clips of the hosts shouting over one another have introduced the show to a new generation of hate watchers. But that revenue stream is now a double-edged sword. Every on-air blow-up generates hundreds of hours of tape that can be subpoenaed. Every nasty exchange posted to social media adds to the public record. The very mechanism that made the brand profitable is also the machine that may ultimately grind it to dust, because the FCC can simply point to the archive and ask whether it resembles journalism. Adding to the existential pressure is the upcoming scripted miniseries based on Ladies Who Punch. The series, now in development, will dramatize the ugliest backstage episodes: Rosie O'Donnell's screaming matches with Whoopi Goldberg, Jenny McCarthy's tearful breakdowns. Once those scenes are recreated with A-list talent, the live show will lose its last shred of credibility. Audiences will compare the fictional version to the real one and find the original wanting. A BC has begun internal discussions about how to handle the inevitable comparison, and early options do not include pretending nothing happened. While the network strategizes, Joy Behar remains defiant. According to a former booker who left in 2022, Behar personally maintains a mental enemies list of actors and commentators who are not allowed on the program. One well-known film celebrity was scratched from a scheduled appearance because he had donated to a Republican congressional candidate 7 years earlier. She didn't want the audience associating him with the brand, the booker told me. Internal emails obtained by my team show the booking department routinely flagging guests' political donations for Behar's personal approval. This is not the operation of a news program. On air, the same screening plays out as coordinated takedowns. During a discussion about the capture of Nicolas Maduro, Behar and Hostin teamed up to declare that the United States had violated international law, repeatedly talking over Alyssa Farah Griffin. The exchange became so chaotic that Whoopi Goldberg had to shout to restore order. What the audience missed was that Behar and Hostin had rehearsed their points moments before the cameras rolled, according to a floor manager. They were not debating, they were performing a script, and the FCC is now very interested in the rehearsal tape. If the exemption is revoked, the practical consequences would be immediate. Every political guest would trigger an equal time obligation, making it impossible to book the high-profile Washington figures who now drive the show's news cycles. A BC has already begun drafting contingency plans for a version of The View that removes political content entirely, a daytime talk show about relationships, cooking, and celebrities, with none of the fire that currently draws the audience. That version would almost certainly require the removal of Behar and Hostin, the very personalities who defined the franchise. That possibility has gone from remote to probable in a matter of weeks. My sources inside the network tell me that Behar's latest contract, signed quietly last year, includes a broad morality clause that could be triggered by findings of workplace misconduct or actions that bring the network into disrepute. The FCC complaint and the leaked recordings would almost certainly qualify. Hostin, who has tied her on-camera identity ever tighter to Behar, faces similar vulnerability. Neither representative responded to requests for comment. The silence is strategic, but the commissioner's questions will not be answered with no comment statements. They will be answered with a ruling. Yet, even as the legal machinery grinds forward, the most damaging testimony continues to come from the women who worked behind the scenes. In the past month, 2 additional former staffers have approached my team with stories that corroborate the core allegations. A workplace where fear was the primary management tool, where on-air mistakes were punished with humiliation, and where loyalty to Behar was the only currency that mattered. These women, now middle-aged and working outside the industry, have no financial incentive to speak aye, only a desire to see the record set straight before the cameras finally go dark.
So, the more details that come to light about the deal you know who signed with Iran, the more prominent Republicans hate it. But you know who says he has a backup plan ready? Well, if you signed a deal, why you got a backup plan? Let me shut up.
The viewers themselves are split. Scanning the public comments submitted to the FCC, you find an emotional spectrum. Some write heartfelt pleas to protect the only show that makes them feel heard, while others express relief that someone is finally scrutinizing what they call a daily propaganda hour. It is that division that marks the deepest legacy of Joy Behar's tenure. She did not just polarize a conversation. She polarized her own audience to the point where half of them would rather see the show end than continue in its current form. That is the tragedy at the heart of this scandal. So who, in the end, is S? I have been able to trace her to a small town in the Northeast, where she is living with relatives and working with a First Amendment attorney. Neighbors recall a quiet, unassuming young woman who rarely spoke about her former job. In early April, a dark sedan with government plates pulled up to the house. An FCC investigator stepped out to take a formal witness statement. The contents of that statement remain sealed, but the fact of its existence signals that the Commission is building something far larger than a simple regulatory review. What S has started may soon spread beyond The View. Late-night comedy shows, daytime roundtables, even certain cable news panels operate under the same news exemption. If the FCC rules broadly, the entire genre could be reshaped. The stakes, therefore, reach far beyond one program. They touch the architecture of political media itself. But for now, the spotlight remains on Joy Behar. Because of all the loud voices on television, hers was the one that dared the system to respond. And the system has finally called her bluff in the most definitive way possible. I want you to think about the moments you have witnessed on your screen. The dismissive wave of a hand, the cutting remark, the host who never lets a guest finish a sentence. Those moments were not incidental. They were the product of a deliberate culture. The FCC is still accepting late comments, and I have posted the direct link in the description. But more importantly, I need your observations in the comment section, because the public record of this scandal is not complete without the testimony of the people who watched it unfold from home. Now I am turning the story over to you. Which host do you believe is most responsible for the toxicity that brought this show to its knees? Should Joy Behar step down, or should the entire panel be replaced? Do you support the FCC's review, or do you see it as political retaliation? If you have ever worked in television, share your experiences. Every story matters. The next chapter of this investigation will be shaped by your revelations. So scroll down, leave your thoughts, and subscribe before you go. The final ruling is coming, and you will want to be here when it drops.